With the spring season comes the Easter holiday. In this video, I'm so excited to share some of my favorite German Easter crafts, traditions, and foods with you. I always love to ring in the season with something that marks it by decorating our front door with a spring wreath. This is not Easter, but it's a flowered wreath, and it greets everybody coming in. Then to bring in the season into the homes, I love to find some local trees with plum blossoms or cherry blossoms, depending what's already blooming in the season here. And that is going to be for my Easter egg decorations at home. And here I am picking some of these branches. Sometimes it's hard to know which ones will look good in a vase afterwards, but you can always clean them up once you have brought them home. Here's actually my brother and myself during an Easter egg hunt when I was a little child. And one of the traditions that I really like is blowing out eggs and decorating eggs. I have to look through the eggs here, and yes, I know they're brown eggs. I'm going to talk about that in a moment, but some of them are kind of speckled, and depending on what you're going to do with them, it's fine. I have a sharp needle, and I'm going to poke a hole in both the bottom of the egg and the top of the egg, depending on which way you look at them, and make that big enough that I can actually blow the inside of the egg through those holes. And make sure you don't blow through your cheeks, but actually really blow into the egg and blow out the egg yolk and the egg white. I'm going to save that for later. I also got some egg dyeing colors on my recent visit to Germany. They're non-toxic, and I'm going to read the instructions here on the package as what to do. They come in 4 different colors. I'm going to leave a link for something similar you can find in this country. This is a German brand, but there's something very similar here in the US. I'm going to dissolve the green because I thought that that would actually work. And I have a white egg from a previous year, and yeah, maybe I should have prepared this video a little bit better by having white eggs, but usually we only have brown eggs. Let's see what my green egg turned out. This is really beautiful. I'm gonna fish it out with a little strainer and let it dry off. Then let's look at my brown eggs. Well, I guess they turned out a little bit muddled, but it was definitely worth an experience. I always have my seasonal decorations packed up in boxes, and this one is full of childhood memories. I have these Easter hares or bunnies that you can use for window decoration. I'm going to leave a link in the box below this video how you can make your own. It's actually really simple, perfect for children, this craft, and it is so cute to put the bunnies in the windowsill or by your front door. And going through my box here, I have some Easter linen. Some of them are heirloom tablecloths. And sometimes it's just really nice for me to reminisce in the past and look at what I have. Here I have an egg carton with some Easter eggs that my children have dyed and decorated when they were a lot younger. They're grown men now. They are onto other things, but I still love to look at those and just think about how it was when they were little and we were doing this together as crafts. I'm gonna dig through some other things here. And I loved, as a kid especially, I absolutely loved these paper mache huge Easter eggs that open up and you can hide little gifts in them. And setting up the Easter table here with a yellow tablecloth. It's not a very expensive one, but I'm keeping it year after year and it's still doing a great job. Over that, I'm putting an heirloom Easter tablecloth with some hand stitched motifs on it, and yes, it's not perfectly ironed, but I'm okay with that. Here are my blossom branches, and I have these candles with some Easter eggs around them, and then I have these glass Easter eggs that I've had for probably 30 or 40 years, and I'm missing a few, but I still have, out of the, 12 here, I still have about 8 or 9 left, and they are absolutely beautiful with very delicate decorations on them. And I'm gonna decorate my little Easter branches here with those glass eggs. And my last favorite memory from my childhood were these little chicks, and they were yellow and a little fuzzy looking. I am sure they're made in China these days. However, they just absolutely, as a kid, I just absolutely loved them. They were so cute and cuddly, and they don't like to stand up easily because they're very small and lightweight, but I always love to put them on our Easter table. For the living room, I am using another heirloom little doily, if you will, and some pink camellias that are growing abundantly in our garden, and they just bring such a touch of spring to the inside of our home. On to baking. I'm dissolving some dried yeast in warm milk, and I'm going to add some sugar to it. You don't have to do this, but it's really nice to get the yeast activated beforehand. Just stirring to dissolve the yeast and mix up the sugar so the yeast has something to feed on. In the big bowl of my stand mixer, I'm adding flour, quite a bit. Spilling sometimes happens. Next, I'm adding sugar. This will be a Easter bread, sometimes called Osterzopf or nut bread, various different names for basically the same thing. And I have my homemade vanilla sugar that adds just a nice touch of vanilla flavor to it. A little bit of salt always brings out the sweetness of all the sweet recipes. I have some soft, very soft butter, and the blown out eggs, which is a perfect use for these eggs. And here is my yeast sponge. It got really activated and light and airy. I'm going to give this a good whirl in my KitchenAid stand mixer. And you can see how very quickly this dough actually comes together. All I need to do is get it off of the paddle, and I'll form it into a round ball so that it can sit in a warm spot and rise. Simply covering it with a towel and letting it sit. In the meantime, I am making the nut filling. Again, a little bit more sugar, some vanilla sugar, over medium heat. I'm heating up some milk. To that, I'm adding my sugar mixture and mixing that up. In another bowl, I have some breadcrumbs, cinnamon powder, a little bit of salt, just a dash is fine, and some ground nuts that I'm adding to the hot milk. And lastly, I'm adding the breadcrumbs. And here's my yeast dough. It has perfectly risen. It's very spongy, and the dents spring right back when you poke it with your finger. Flouring my work surface here so that I can roll out the dough. And I'm going to show you in a moment how I'm going to do that. I like to flour the dough from both sides, makes it a little easier with the rolling pin. And now I'm rolling it out into a large rectangle. It doesn't have to be super even, but actually once you get it, it's not that difficult. In hindsight, I could have rolled it out just a little bit more. My nut breadcrumb mixture goes right on top. This is pretty much very similar to a cinnamon roll recipe. However, this is with nuts, and I could have spent an enormous amount of time making sure that the mixture is spread evenly, but I think this will just be perfect. From the long side, I'm rolling it up into a one long roll. To turn it into a braid, I'm cutting it open in the middle with a knife. You can also, there's various different ways you can make this. You can also cut it into 3 strands, which simplifies the trinity. And you can also turn this into a circle or a wreath, if you will, which basically symbolizes eternity or the circle of life, everything returning. So I'm just going to do a very simple braid here and place that on parchment paper. I could have actually put it on parchment paper and then transferred it in there, but it's actually fairly stiff and heavy and not so difficult. Here I'm baking it at 350 degrees until it is golden brown and done. And while it's cooling, I'm going to make a glaze. Very simple. I guess you can measure it. I like to call myself the queen of eyeballing, and I often just throw some powdered sugar in a jar, and to that I'm adding some lemon juice, mixing it up. Using a pastry brush, I liberally brush my Easter braid here with this lemon sugar glaze. It actually doesn't taste very lemony, it just has a very fresh taste. And I just wanted to show you what the inside looks like. It came out so perfect, and it actually vanished very quickly in our house. Osterzopf, Nusszopf, various different words for the same thing. And for our Easter breakfast, this is not a regular brunch, some chocolate eggs, and then I have these felted egg cozies for our soft-boiled eggs. For Easter dinner, I like to make I always call it potato gratin. I think it's also called scalloped potatoes or potatoes gratinées. I think there's several different words. I never know exactly which one it is, I guess. However, I'm peeling starchy potatoes with my beloved vegetable peeler that is so helpful and useful and handy in the kitchen to peel very thinly, and cut the potatoes in very thin slices. And as you can see, I've already arranged them in my cast iron skillet here. And then there was a little mishap here that happened where I forgot to record the mixture I'm putting over it, but basically it's sour cream and a little bit of broth and some salt and nutmeg. And while that is baking in the oven, I am steaming green beans that I have just cleaned and cut the tips off, and letting them steam for a little bit until they're just tender but not mushy, and draining them here. Then I'm gonna get rid of the water, return the green beans to the pot, add some salt and my homemade butter. Sometimes really good ingredients just need very simple recipes to bring out the best of their flavor. Oops, there's one stuck on my fork, shaking this around. For my meat, I'm gonna make a garlic herb butter. Again, this is my homemade butter here that I'm adding to a small ramekin. I could have used a bigger bowl, I guess, but sometimes these things only occur to me later. And here I have 2 peeled garlic cloves that I'm pushing through my garlic press. I think the gist of it is that you can put it in there without peeling. I always like to peel the garlic beforehand because I feel like I get more out of it than putting the garlic cloves in there with the peel. I have some herbs from my garden, some thyme that never looks as pretty as you get it from the store, but it's fresh from my garden, so I don't mind that at all. And I have some rosemary here, and while I'm getting the thyme off its little stems, chopping the thyme. The leaves are very small, but I'm chopping them just a little bit before I add them to the butter. And then I'm also chopping the rosemary in small little pieces, and everything goes into my herb garlic butter here. For extra flavor, I have a herb salt from the German Alps, and I think I will leave a link in the recipe in the box below this video. I'm going to mix everything up. It already smells fantastic like garlic, and that will be my herb garlic butter. In another large cast iron skillet, I'm heating this oil that some of you are very excited about and others just don't want to even touch with a 10-foot pole. That's fine. I have some lamb chops that I'm adding to the hot skillet. And the key always is to heat the cast iron before you add the oil, then add the oil, let the oil become really hot. And let's see if I can actually manage to fit all these little lamb chops in there. Yes, I guess I can. I like to put a splatter guard on it and brown them from one side, flip them, and brown them from the other side until they are done. I turned off the heat. Now I'm adding the garlic herb butter directly to the skillet because I want the lamb chops to be completely covered and coated in this herb butter, but you can tell that the skillet is pretty hot still. I'm moving the skillet so that all the lamb chops get coated in this herb butter. And to dish it up, I'm adding some lamb chops to a plate, some green beans, and the potato gratin, potatoes au gratin. I don't know, maybe you can let me know what this is officially called. And here is that dinner. Our sons were elsewhere, so it was just my husband and me, and this was such a fantastic, delicious Easter dinner. Happy Easter to you. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.